Now, Ms. Butler, can you give another drum roll? Because now we're gonna listen to improvement plan and public hearing.
Yes, thank you so much. Board, you know, the Texas Education Code states that the Board of Trustees shall ensure that the district and campus improvement plans are developed and reviewed, revised annually for the purpose of improving schools. The performance objectives and plans have been reviewed by central office and are aligned with district board goals. A couple of weeks ago on October 3rd, the board received an electronic copy of all performance objectives for campus improvement plans. At that time, we also shared detailed targeted improvement plans. So tonight, Dr. Rayon Amin and Natalie Martinez will kind of do a combo presentation as we are seeking the board's approval for those performance objectives, on the campus improvement plans, as well as approval on our targeted improvement plans. So I'm going to bring up Dr. Amin first and let her get started.
Good evening. Tonight, Natalie and I will present to you information about our campus improvement planning process. The Effective Schools Framework, including targeted improvement plans and selected highlights of the strategies our campuses have been focused on. The Texas Education Agency states that schools must annually develop and revise campus improvement plans for the purpose of improving the performance of all students. In late July, all Alief schools began the improvement planning process, leading to the creation of their campus improvement plans, including their performance objectives. Those performance objectives were submitted to you on October 3rd and are posted on our website. So the CIP is inclusive of all campus goals. In addition to the CIP, the campus improvement plans, and as part of the Effective Schools Framework, our campuses have completed targeted improvement plans, or what we refer to as TIPs. The targeted improvement plans were also submitted to you, and those plans contain additional strategies that the campuses will be focused on this year. Later tonight, you will hear more about some of the great things that our campuses are implementing in their TIPs to change adult behaviors and to focus on lesson plans, coaching, and data-driven instruction. So we'll start with our improvement planning process. Our improvement planning process starts with analyzing multiple sources of data, assessment reports, attendance, discipline, and climate data. Through a root cause analysis and protocols, the schools conduct a needs assessment. In this needs assessment, they identify gaps that they want to focus on. Based on their needs assessment, our schools look at where they currently are, where they want to be, and develop strategies to get there. Throughout the year, we will be using checkpoints to monitor and assess the extent to which our campuses are on track to reaching their goals and to assist them further. In looking at the performance objectives you received on October 3rd, these performance objectives are written in terms of SMART goals, or utilize a SMART format. And SMART is an acronym that stands for S being specific, M for being measurable, A for being achievable, R realistic, and T for timely. So all performance objectives are aligned with our district goals, and our district goals are displayed on the screen and are centered around academic achievement, college and career readiness, safety, recruitment and retention of effective personnel, and parent and community outreach. So all of this describes our campus improvement planning process. Natalie will now go over our Effective Schools Framework and highlight some of the great strategies that our campuses have implemented, including the focus on adult behavior, lesson plans, coaching, and our data-driven instructional process.
The continuous improvement process feeds our targeted improvement plans. These plans were posted on campus web pages 15 days prior to the public meetings at the campuses, where they also collected feedback from the parents of the students in these schools. These plans are centered around the effective school framework. The effective school framework was discussed previously, but as a refresher, there are 5 levers. Alief schools have chosen to focus on strong school leadership and planning, along with effective instruction. Strong school leadership is broken down into a couple of different pieces. Developing campus leaders. You'll notice that when we look at these bullets, it's about communicating expectations of all of our leaders, including specialists, administrators, assistant principals, and principals. It's also about applying consistent protocols within their planning sessions, their PLCs, and staff meetings. It's also about these leadership teams discussing student progress, and for the principal to have job-embedded professional development for their leaders. This year, that job-embedded professional development has become a Get Better Faster movement. This is a book that Central started last year. Campuses are picking up on this as well. It mainly involves our content specialists and principals, but there are open opportunities for our ESL leads, our tech specialists, others that are interested in this coaching model. They're all joining in to learn the Get Better Faster way. Get Better Faster has 3 principles that we really focus on, which is going granular with the teachers as we coach, to plan, practice, and follow up with the teacher, giving them the opportunity to practice before they deliver first-line instruction, and also the frequent feedback. So there are multiple cycles that go along throughout the year, but it's all going back to the Get Better Faster model. In the effective instruction lever, lesson plans were clearly outlined by TEA, and on screen you'll see the different components within the lesson plans. The leaders are reviewing those lesson plans for rigor and alignment, and also supporting teachers with feedback along the way. Again, the idea is that you review the lesson plans prior to delivery so that teachers have the opportunity to update before students show up. The other side of effective instruction is data-driven instruction. You'll notice that leaders are expected to look at and use disaggregated data. This is in support of our domain 3, where we have all of our subpopulation data. We ask that they monitor our subpops throughout the year as well. Teachers are analyzing data to identify those misconceptions prior to delivery of instruction. Once they know the misconceptions, they also work on effective strategies and plan for progress for this year. The last part of it involves our students. TA is asking that we involve students in tracking their own data, which many of our schools already do. But this is to provide ownership for the students with their own data and goal setting. Student outcomes don't change until adult behavior changes, and this is what the focus was for the transition from TASE to ESF. And you'll see in many of the plans the focus is on the adult behavior and how we're changing things in Alief. As required by the Texas Education Code, public participation relating to targeted improvement plans must be allowed. Therefore, we will now turn this portion of the presentation over to the board president so that she may open the public comment portion of tonight's public hearing. Sure.
You said that this little framework, I did all this.
Me too.
As required by the Texas Education Code, public participation relating to target improvement plan must be allowed. Therefore, we are now turning this portion over.
Got it.
Okay, I got you. At this time, we are now open for public discussion on the target improvement plan. And we typically do not have a clock-up, but I'm going to ask that we monitor. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak? Mr. Barone?
Yes. My question is, what is the process for selecting community members to be involved in this selection or this task? How diverse are the viewpoints of those selected by the district to be involved in this process? 85% of our community is socially economically disadvantaged. So I want to know, what is their aptitude of understanding the information that is presented to them by the district?
Mr. Barone, I hate to interrupt you. I think you have a list of questions, and I'm okay with you providing them. And could you pause the clock for me, please? I just want Ms. Natalie to have a moment to address everyone. I know you have about,
I
what?
got 5 minutes.
No, I'm gonna give you your time, but I'm just saying, I just realized that you have several of them. And Natalie, are you taking notes so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you'll be able to answer every one of his questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And it was stated during the board meeting, this is my last comment or question, that it was stated during the board meeting by one of the board members that it's understood that parents in our community work 2 and 3 jobs. So my question is, how are these parents being accommodated to be inclusive in the process that specifically states in the mission statement that parents and community members will be involved? So knowing the difficulties of our community, how are they being involved and our diverse views being included in this process?
Jessica, could you pause that clock because Natalie is going to respond at this time? Thank you.
Sure. So the plans are public on the web, and everybody is invited to view those plans. And then open house, the principals are sharing this information and getting feedback from the community. Those feedback pieces come electronically and or paper pencil. They come in English and or Spanish. They are also we also use our parent liaisons to help us get that feedback. Some of our principals also have coffee with the principals, so it's a smaller setting so that they're more willing to interact in that way. So there's a variety of ways that we try to get that feedback.
So Natalie, at this time, I know that we have a number of principals in the audience. You're free to add to the information that she's providing.
Okay. So is there any way that I could see the feedback that's specifically given at each particular campus, or how can I see that particular campus information that's collected?
I'm not sure. I'd have to figure out if you have access to that parent feedback. I'm
I
not
don't
confident in
think
that.
so, because the board members, I mean, that's typically,
It goes to the principals, so I'm not confident in that. I'd have to look into that.
Okay, can you do that for me,
I
please?
will.
Thank you.
continue.
You asked me something about how, I guess,
Your other question
how
again,
willing,
Ms.
and not how willing, but how able they were to answer those questions. I don't know
Right,
the parents personally, so I don't know their background at all. I would say there's
Well,
probably a
one
variety.
of the principals, somebody got
I
yard
don't know
line.
the
Do
answer.
you know what you, when coming, won't you just take a stab at it? Please come up here, please.
Yes. Because I think he spoke to the competency of the individuals that are involved.
Thank you.
So, good evening, everyone. Some of the comments that I
Jeanette, I'm
received.
sorry, can you just introduce yourself? real
Oh,
quick?
I'm Jeanette Bird, I'm the principal at Cummings Elementary.
Greetings.
And so during our open house, our rescheduled open house, because it flooded, in case everyone had forgotten that, some of the parents provided the written feedback while they were on the campus. And some of the comments included, like one of the questions was about how can we serve your child? And of mine, I didn't have a whole lot of comments back, but 2 of them said, I want my child to go to college. So that means that when we're looking at our plans and the things that we're writing, we are aiming for that. Implementing AVID strategies, just doing different things on our campus that are written in our plan. So that was one of the comments. And then another comment was that I would like for my child to receive additional help in addition to coming to school each day. So tutoring services, being able to make that available.
How many comments? You said limited comments. How many did you get back?
I had 7 paper copies
7 paper copies?
from open house night.
Out of how many parents? How many families, roughly?
I would have to estimate, I don't know how many families were there, but.
No, I mean out of how many families in your campus? Like, I got 7 out of 2,000 families.
Oh, well, we have 530 students on our campus, but I don't know how many were actually represented that
Excellent.
evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'd also like to make a comment because we absolutely always do want to see more engagement from our families and from our parents, and so that's something that we really are always striving for. You asked about, what was basically the aptitude of these parents. Well, we don't look at it that way, like what is their aptitude. We invite all parents. We want all parents to come and be a part, because regardless of whatever their educational background is, they do bring value to the table. So we are always absolutely looking for our parents to come. We'd love to see more parental engagement. We'd love to see when we send out surveys, give information for our parents to actually, return and submit that to be more active on their child's campus. So, we are definitely open to that. So we encourage it, and we ask that all of our community members encourage families and parents to come. So we're always trying to think of more creative ways, trying to capture the parents when they are in the parent center. So we're looking for that.
Mr. Barone, does that answer all your questions? I thought you had about 4.
Yeah, I did, and I wasn't, my concern is not to belittle our community. My concern is that meeting them where they are. That's where my concern is. If they're ESL, make sure that we meet them where they are and we're not talking above their heads. So by no means am I talking down on our community. My concern is being sure that they are able to receive the information
Yeah, exactly.
that's
That they
intended for
understand.
them.
Putting it in layman's terms, basically.
There it is.
We understand that, because oftentimes we can speak, in an educational language that's very difficult, but we do try to help our parents understand whenever we're meeting with parents, exactly what that means to them. Because we understand they've not been in this business. They're not educators. Many of us have family members, they're not educators. So we absolutely understand, just like when we see the look in the eyes of board members and they ask us to kind of break it down, to tell us what does that mean. We look just like we look to our students to see, oh, they're not with us. Let us put this in just layman's terms so that they can understand exactly what we're trying to get to. But certainly, we want participation from our families and our parents.
Right. Seven responses is concerning to me as a community member. So I would like to see how we could increase those numbers. What can we do to increase those numbers? Because 7 responses and then taking credit or building a community off of those 7 responses, that's not representative of the entire district of 46,000 students.
I'm gonna allow the public to complete first before board members. I do agree, Mr. Barone, and we welcome whatever suggestions or whatever you have. I know that you've been a part of several committees in the community to get those numbers up, because that has always been the goal in our community. That's why we do all these events, Alief Proud and things like that, to get them out and make them aware that these things are coming out. So do you have any other questions?
No.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to comment on our target improvement plan? Is there anyone else in the public? If not, that closes the public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, board, are there any further discussion on this before we bring this up?
I actually just have a comment as a past parent, kids in the district who want to parent nights and so forth. I don't think in the probably 18 years my kids went through school here, I never give anything written, question or response to written to the campuses, but I sure did ask a lot of questions to the teachers and the staff daily and so forth, whether it's in English or in Spanish or Vietnamese or whatever language is being spoken to. So I'm sure I understand the community members' concerned about only 7 responses or 7 requests, but I'm sure there were more questions asked that night or since that night of the teachers or the principals or the staff. It's just not documented, it's just not written down. So, I personally, as a parent, not so alarmed with that response of 7.
She did share, it was the night of the weather. Did we schedule a different night?
It was rescheduled, yes.
Okay. And that will impact your numbers as well.
That was just my comment.
Okay, I have comments from Ms. Key and then Ms. Butler.
So I heard the opportunities that you'll have through open houses and other venues for parents to participate. And we also have parent centers.
Each campus has a shared decision-making committee as well. Do the plans pass through the shared decision-making committee?
They're not required to be approved by the SDC. The SDC works on our campus improvement plans. That is a different plan than the targeted improvement plan.
Okay, we do have other planning opportunities for parents to participate.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. King.
Ms. Butler? Ms. Butler?
Yes, I want to say thank you all very much for answering my questions and giving me the data that I was looking for. So one of the things that I was looking at was comparing all the tips from last year and the plans from this year to see what those changes were like, and because I couldn't really understand like where our goal was and how we were coming through it. So Dr. Ryan and Owenelli gave me some of that information. So I just want to say thank you all both very much for talking to me in layman terms, because I don't speak teacher. So I really do appreciate that, and the phone call and y'all giving me the extra data and taking that time to explain that. And I think that there's some great work that is going on that I saw from last year to this year. Some of my concerns were that, some things seemed like it was painted with the same brush across the district. And so I'm still a little confused about that, but I think that's just more about my own personal understanding and just needing to learn more and read some more and understand what the process was.
Sure. Ms. Brown?
Yes, thank you. I actually kind of want to echo what Rick said as well, that there's other opportunities which I've seen in which parents are able to give feedback, and I'm sure that some of the principals back there, because also sometimes maybe parents don't want to necessarily fill out a survey. I know in my line of work, they hate it, but they would rather just sit down and have a conversation. And that's what I have found, that even from when I'm, sit down with parents and meet with parents within the district, then I get most of, my information is that they just want to talk. So I was just hoping that there's ways that you all do capture. Yeah.
This is Courtney Marshall, principal of Collins Elementary.
Yes, so to answer your question, yes, there are multiple ways. I know that many of us host coffee with the principal. Like I know, for example, mine is tomorrow, and that is a more intimate setting where parents feel more open to talk, ask questions. So we always look for ways just to make sure that parents feel welcomed to engage in those kind of conversations. So they're not always going to happen in those big, huge open house forums, but in those more smaller forums that we have, we get a lot of feedback from our parents.
Good, great. Yes, that's great to hear. And then also just looking at the plans as well and comparing them. Sometimes people have the idea that the plans, there needs to be major changes every year. And that is kind of going down the wrong road, because if you're constantly changing, you're moving the target. So that's kind of what I like to see, is when I look at those plans, sometimes things have to be in place 3-4 years so that you can see the outcome on the end. And if we're constantly changing and moving the target, that makes it very difficult for campus, for the campus leadership, as well as the staff. So I actually I really appreciated seeing that consistency. And then also knowing that there are other ways, just like Mr. Barone said, how are the ways that you're capturing that information? Surveys are only one piece, but there's so many other ways. So I'm really happy to hear all the different ways that you're capturing that information.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Krieg, and I'm the principal at State Elementary. We actually have, our parents come out in droves for every event that we have, and we actually had 70 written responses. I know we have a lot more students than Cummings does, but we had 70 written responses in which parents were very detailed about what they're very happy with at State, and also what their concerns for their children, and that they just want their children to feel safe and to feel accepted and loved, and that we had many, many positive responses. In addition to that, the coffee with the principals are very well attended, and we have started a live feed of our coffee with the principals on our social media pages, so parents can go back and watch it when they are off work. We understand that a lot of parents do work evening hours, day hours, multiple jobs, supporting their families, and so we provide a taped version of that. And I know that I personally take, a minimum of 10 to 20 phone calls a week from parents, just, that they want to reach out to me and ask questions, and we're just open to any kind of feedback that parents can give us at all times.
Thank you for live streaming the coffee with the principals. I've been asking for the same thing to happen with the school board meetings for these same parents that are busy and working 3 jobs. So thank you for using the technology.
You're welcome. We're trying to really start to think of more modern approaches to reaching out to the
Excellent.
community.
Thank you very much for that.
I also wanted to add too that your campus is the one that has the high population of Burmese families as well. It's all MSR. So I thought,
It used to be
at
sneaky.
first, okay, so I'm like, I know I'm not losing it. Oh, okay, so we did some boundary changes, okay. All right, so the purpose of saying that was, I agree, and it's always been a concern of ours that with the diverse population and the number of languages that are spoken, we are always fighting to ensure that our parents get the information, so.
Our family engagement centers are one of our best, if not our best conduit. Other than picking up the phone and calling, they're by far. And there's no, I know each one of those coordinators attempt to document every transaction, if you will. So if you want to look at real numbers, and you know, as the board knows, Ms. Tierney gives you an annual update every year, and the number of footprints in those engagement centers continue to go up and up and up and up. So this is an age-old issue of trying to get parents engaged and involved and answering questions, and we'll keep fighting it. And 100 years from now, somebody's going to be sitting here fighting that same issue.
Well, as a former parent, my kids are grown, gone, but when they were here in the district, and I see for some of my kids, teachers and principals here, that I always felt that it was an open door policy, so glad to hear that's still going on.
If there are no other comments, board, it is recommended that the Alief Board of Trustees approve performance objectives for on-campus improvement plans and approve the target improvement plan as submitted for 2019-2020 school year. I'll accept a motion to approve. It's been moved by Trustee Key. May I have another? It's been seconded by Mr. Nguyen. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain. Let the record show that there are 5 that approve and 1 abstain.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
I try my best to get you guys out early, but you're dismissed. Thank you so very much. I think we have the rest. If not, we'll send an email. Thank you, Natalie and company and Dr. Young. Thank you. I don't think that's it. I'm sorry. You guys know I'm trying. Okay. All right, at this time, we are going to have a quick update from our committees. Yes, we're going to